Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Forsyth County Connections. And it's kind of a new edition because we're now in our new home where we are being hosted by the good folks at Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System Cable 2. And we are in the Cable 2 studios and we appreciate their help with this. And so as we start off on this program, we start off talking about animals and partnerships. And we do this with Darla Kirkeeng, Vice President of Philanthropy, also Chief Development Officer for Forsyth Humane Society. Good to see you, Darla.
Good to see you as well. Thank
For
you.
folks that might not know, just give me a few seconds on help us understand what the mission of the Humane Society is in your area.
Sure. Well, the mission of the Forsyth Humane Society is to promote and provide for the humane treatment of cats and dogs in our community. We have been around for 81 years. We've done this a long time. A lot of people remember us from our Miller Street location.
Right.
We went into a very successful capital campaign, and our new home is located at 481 Country Club Road.
Now, is that where the no-kill shelter is?
So we no longer go under the no-kill shelter.
Okay.
We, with our partnership with Forsyth County, have become an open intake facility, which
Okay.
means we take every
Take
dog and
all
cat.
animals.
A dog and cat. So, and then the county will care for any other type of pet, a gerbil, a rabbit, pig, goat.
And then can people still at the new location, can they still come in and talk about adoptions and things?
Absolutely. So that is our Moraqua Adoption and Resource Center, and that's where all the adoptions occur. Our partnership, our contracted partnership with Forsyth County started in January of 2018.
Right.
And what we do is we manage all intake of dogs and cats. We provide for their daily care, their health, their wellness. We facilitate and manage adoptions, the foster program, volunteer program, and transport. So it's everything that we did prior to our partnership
Right.
at Country Club.
Right.
But now that we are partnering with Forsyth County, we are open intake, which means we take them all. It
Right.
means we do not deny access based on age, health,
Right.
tendencies of aggression or behavioral issues, and even space.
And my wife Pam and I over the years have adopted some great animals, dogs, who were at an advanced age, and sometimes they're great, you know,
Right.
the older. Now, was there something I saw in an email about a life-saving program that you have going on?
Right, so our life-saving programs are adoption. We work very hard to find forever homes for our animals. Foster program, which is essential to the work that we do. They provide a temporary home for animals, for adoptable animals that need, either it's an illness that they need to recover from,
Sure.
or an accident that they need to recover.
Do some rehabbing, yeah.
Rehabbing, especially puppies and kittens. And right now, we're in puppy and kitten season. So,
yeah.
And that'll go from spring to the fall. And we'll get litters of cats and puppies that show up at our location, but cannot be in a shelter because they have not developed their immune system.
You sent me something one day about wanting to have a goal of 90% by 2023. What is all that about?
So our mission is the compassionate care to provide humane treatment. Our Save Forsyth goal is in line with our mission, where we want to raise the save rate from 36% in 2017 to 90% by 2023.
Get them adopted, find them homes.
Get them adopted, find them homes. But it requires that we use all the resources that we have in
Right.
order to do that. So foster is one, volunteer is another, transport. There are locations in the Northeast that have empty shelters.
Yeah.
Because they've controlled the overpopulation.
It's very quickly before time runs out. Partnership working pretty good with the county?
It's fabulous, and it starts with leadership. So, we are grateful to the county commissioners, Sheriff Kimbrough, Captain Loveland, our board of directors who had the vision and due diligence to do this, and our CEO and President Mark Knapp. So.
Well, I just appreciate all you do. I wanted to see if we can, and we'll put up on screen at some point, forsythhumane.org is a good one to go to, and I hope folks will do that. Darla, thanks for all you do.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
DEPR.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
Right now, Forsyth County Connections, and I have a gentleman with me who just works all the time on our behalf to keep things going in planning and development. In fact, it's in his title. With me is Chris Murphy, Director of Planning and Development Services for Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
What is you sent me an email one day and said we're going to talk about the comprehensive plan. So let's make sure we're all on the same page. What do you mean when you say a comprehensive plan, and why is it important?
Well, the comprehensive plan is basically the guide that's going to guide growth and development in our community, for the foreseeable future. And we've had several of those started back with Vision 2005, and then that transitioned to Legacy, and then Legacy 2030. And then we're getting ready to launch our next comprehensive plan initiative called Forward 2045, and we hope to kick that off this coming fall. But essentially, it guides the growth of the community and helps elected officials make decisions on development and investments in capital plans.
And it might amaze people to know how far in advance you're working on this stuff, like Legacy 2030. People say, well, we hadn't got to 2030 yet, Chris, but you started working on that in like, what, 2012?
It was adopted in 2012. We began working on it probably 2009, 2010. So yeah, comprehensive plans need to be very forward-thinking, very forward-looking, so that we can make sure that we have the tools in place to help us guide that growth.
Okay, so you've got plans, I get that, but how do you translate this into reality so that all of us who are residents get a feel of how it's going to affect us?
Yeah, it's part of a larger comprehensive planning program that we have. The comp plan kind of sets the broad scope or the broad vision, and then we do things called area plans, where the county and city divided up in 15 or 16 different areas. We do area plans where we get parcel specific on what we see the vision for that parcel being, what we see the future land use of that parcel being.
Well, can it change? I mean, if you're doing it so far in advance, can you come back and say, wait a minute, we've had some changes in some environmental things, or we've had some changes in population or census or whatever, or roads? Yeah,
it's not anything that's set in stone. It's a very fluid document. It allows for course correction. One of the examples I would say right now is, our last comprehensive plan, our last set of area plans have a lot of recommendations dealing with office recommendations, and coming out of COVID, and as we've seen through COVID, there's a change in kind of the workplace. A lot of folks have proven that they can work from home, so we're going to have to kind of adjust course on some of those office recommendations and look at perhaps multifamily or some other institutional type uses that may be more appropriate for those areas. But it's a fluid document. It sets policy, it doesn't set regulations, and one of the ways that we do translate the comprehensive plan to the area plan to regulation is through the Unified Development Ordinances, and that's a 700 and some page document that sets forth what the development regulations are for residential, commercial, like fast food restaurant, what parking is, buffering, trees, those kind of things. Right,
and it's a tough job because you're not just going to let anything and everything come into on a particular street or a residence or a business zone, because it goes into zoning issues and everything else. Since you have to work so far ahead to look after our interest and plan for us, do you think you meet the objectives that you set up years before? Are you doing that okay?
We certainly try to. That's one of those things where after we adopt a comprehensive plan and we work on those area plans, we try to benchmark and try to determine how well we're doing on certain things. One of the recommendations that came out of Legacy 2030 was for a recommendation that we revisit the accessory dwelling unit provisions, which essentially granny flats or mother-in-law suites. That's
what I call my mother-in-law, is sweet. It's a mother-in-law suite.
You better call them sweet.
That's
correct?
Right. That's right.
But essentially, that was one of those recommendations, and we recently wrapped up a change to the ordinance dealing with accessory dwelling units, making them easier to do. So again, we do go back, we look at what that large, broad picture sets forth, and see how well we're doing in implementing the overall plan.
Now, how could folks learn more about what you do, or at least keep up with what's going on? I mean, we keep this website up with us all the time on the screen, connectwith.forsythcountync.gov. Is there another way people can just find out what's going on in the county and the city?
Certainly follow both the city and the county on social media. We do a lot of information pushes out that way. Through the Forsyth County website, you can get a link. City County Planning, we're a city county agency. We're actually housed within the city, so our website is through the city, but there's a link to the county website to get to the planning department's website. We're always updating that. We're going to be kicking off the comprehensive plan this fall,
Okay.
fall of 2022. So be looking for announcements on that. Again, it will be called Forward 2045.
All right.
You know, if I can put in a plug,
Go ahead.
certainly one of the things that is very important is citizen participation. We want this plan to be reflective of our community. We want folks to participate in the plan so that we can make sure that the regulations and the guides and the policies that we're putting forth represent what the community wants.
Gotcha. Chris, I appreciate all you do day in and day out. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
Right now, Forsyth County Connections, let's talk about tattoos, shall we? We have an expert with us, Aubrie Welch, is Environmental Health Specialist for Forsyth County's Department of Public Health. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim.
By way of New York. And how long have you been in this area if you came from New York?
A long time. I've pretty much grew up in North Carolina on the eastern part of the state. So.
Eastern part of the state. Now, let's talk about tattoo artists. Are they required to have a permit to do what they're doing?
Absolutely, yes. They are required to have a permit, and it is good for them to tattoo in a certain location for a year, and then it has to be renewed.
Okay, so if I want a tattoo, the first thing I need to check now, are these things, forgive me for asking these stupid questions, but you know, when you go into a salon or a restaurant, you see certificates, you see grades, you see, you know, permits and things. Is that something you look for if you go into a tattoo parlor?
Absolutely. So if a client is interested in getting a tattoo, they should definitely be looking for the permit. It should be readily visible when they enter, and the address on the permit should match the location of the shop.
Oh, okay, okay. Now, do you have an idea of how many permitted tattoo artists there are in the county?
It varies from week to week, but right now we have 178.
Wow.
And that's not just tattoo artists, that's also people that do permanent makeup and microblading.
Permanent makeup, okay. Now, how often do you inspect tattoo artists, and what are you looking for during an inspection?
So they get inspected yearly to renew their permit, and we're basically doing a sanitation inspection, so we're making sure that the equipment and the studio are clean and in good repair. They have to have a dedicated hand wash sink that's just for the tattoo artists.
Right.
We verify that they have knowledge of aseptic techniques, and then we also check records. There's records that they're required to keep for clients for 2 years, and they also have to have records if they do not use disposables and they sterilize in an autoclave, they have to have monthly records of that.
Wow, you really keep up with this stuff, and it's pretty strict, but you need to do that for public health, don't you?
Absolutely.
I mean, now when I walk in, we talk about seeing the permit and everything. What safeties are, give me an example of a safety measure I should automatically look for.
We'll definitely make sure that you see that artist. If you're going to get a tattoo there, verify the permit. You should see the artist wash their hands in front of you, and they should also open the needles and all the equipment in front of you.
Now, what kind of risk do I run if I happen to get a tattoo from somebody that says, well, I'm not permitted?
Well, there's a lot of risks, and obviously you're puncturing the skin, so you're increasing your risk of getting an infectious disease if you don't go to a permitted artist. You could end up with hepatitis, MRSA, HIV, TB, tetanus.
This is serious. All kidding aside, this is serious stuff. I mean, tattoos are fun and they're neat to have, but you've got to make sure that somebody's doing it who's qualified.
Sure.
Not just an artist, not just creative, but is permitted for the public health and safety. Final thing before we run out of time, is there any kind of education or outreach that you can do for people that might want to know more information? Is there a website? Is there a phone number? Is there any way that they can learn more about what you're trying to teach me in these short 5 minutes?
Sure, yeah, they can go on the Forsyth County website. If you navigate to the Environmental Health, Food and Lodging page, you can see some information about tattooing. Also, before the pandemic, we did have a program that was unique to Forsyth County called Tattoo EDU. So we would go into the 10th grade classrooms and during their health class and give them information about tattoos.
So they can make responsible choices?
Correct.
Okay. You know, I don't have any tattoos. Does that disqualify me from doing this segment?
Absolutely not. It's never too late.
Okay. I can ask questions without being tattooed, can I?
That's right.
Aubrie, I appreciate all you do and looking after our health and public safety with this. And again, let's just remind everybody at home, because tattoos are getting more and more popular, do exactly what Aubrie said. Check them out when you go in there, and even call ahead and say, it's okay to say, are you permitted? You can ask that.
A reputable artist is going to have no problem showing you their permit.
There you go. All right. That's how I feel. I'm permitted here. I don't know what that means. Thanks, Aubrie.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this.
I keep hearing how things are getting back to normal. Is this normal? So much has changed. It's time to discover the new person I am now. For some great tips on finding your new normal, visit yourlifeyourvoice.org.
There's so much to see in this life's journey, and the view just keeps getting better. But untreated hearing loss can put us at risk for missing out. Stay connected so you can keep doing what you love. Get a hearing health check every year.
Back now for Forsyth County Connections, and so glad to welcome this gentleman. Chris Weavil is Assistant Director of Park Operations for Forsyth County Department of Parks and Recreation. I know you have a lot going on, and we appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. How you doing today?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
You know, I guess you sent me an email one day and said, let's talk about something called 421 River Park.
Yes, sir.
Before I get to that, let me ask you in general, how many parks are there in the county?
Right now, Forsyth County boasts 9 park locations, soon to be 10.
Soon to be 10. All right. Now, this 421 River Park, what is that all about?
421 River Park is actually the smallest park in our system. It's about 1.5 acres. It was actually a site historically that was set aside back before World War II as I think a hydroelectric project for the city of High Point. That was abandoned. The federal government actually gave it to the state to operate as a roadside park from the 60s until the mid-70s, and I believe the county finally acquired the land in the mid or early 80s.
A lot of history to it.
A lot of history.
Now, where can you go once you access the river? Explain to me how we can do this.
Well, once you access the river, there are a few points south. Be a long trip if you wanted to paddle to the north, but of course the river flows to the south. About 5.5 miles away, there is a portage that you can get out at the Huntsville axis. That's actually in Yadkin County. Then about 16 river miles from the 421 location is actually Tanglewood Park.
Right.
And there is an access point there where you can actually get in and go farther south, or you can get out.
But now the park itself, you're talking about the acreage at the park, what's the exact location of that?
The exact location, I'm sorry, is actually on Old 421 highway, just before you cross the river into Yadkin County.
I got you. All right, now let's say I've put out on the onto the river. What is it that I can see and experience along the Yadkin River coming from that starting point?
From that starting point, it's a great spot to see all sorts of both flora and fauna, animal, plant life, just kind of rural Forsyth County, and then the bordering counties around us. All sorts of wildlife. I've actually been there at 421 and once at Tanglewood, and you've seen an eagle. I've always wanted to see an otter. I've never seen any, but there are definitely pictures all over YouTube and what have you of the river otters along the Yadkin River. So
right.
Lots of different things that you can see.
What a fun way to see nature up close. Now, here's something I think is important, because people are thinking, well, this sounds like it's fun. I'll just go on down there this evening and put out, but you don't want people going at dark, right?
No, sir. We actually close the park at dusk, and that time fluctuates through the year with the length of the day. So we actually close the parks at night. It's locked. So if you plan to do a trip from there to another location, farther south, make sure you allow plenty of time to get back, to get your vehicle, to get out of there, any of those types of things.
Yeah, this is all new to me. This is fascinating. So if we come in during operating hours and we park there and we put out a little boat or canoe or whatever we've got, do people, and pardon my ignorance, I just don't do a lot of boating. So do I try to work my way back up, because we were kidding around earlier about going back up the river, or do I have somebody meet us at another point? How do you do that?
Most of the time, you'll either have a person that'll drop you off and then park a car farther, at a point farther south, or you take two vehicles. You'll drop yourself. One person will drop yourself off, there at the start, and you'll leave another car at the end. That way you can get back and forth.
Now I'm just guessing. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not a motorboat type thing. This is enjoy nature, right?
No, sir. This is a paddling type river. What you'll see, mostly on there. There are some, fishermen that will put their boats in that have ramps that they can get in the river. But at 421, there is a concrete access ramp that is made strictly for, canoes, and kayaks, things of those nature.
All right. Is there Chris, is there a website or any place for people? I know we keep this up constantly during the show, connectwith.forsythcountync.gov. Is there a specific place or portal that we should go to that we can learn more about this?
There are a couple places. I believe the state of North Carolina maintains a site for the Yadkin River Trail, the Yadkin River State Trail, and from that site, I believe you can also access the Yadkin River Keeper site. And those
That's a good organization,
Yes,
Yadkin River Keeper. Chris, thanks for telling me all about this. I've learned a lot, and thanks for keeping up with all the parks and looking after us.
Glad to do it. Easy job.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
So, I keep hearing how things are getting back to normal. Really? When am I back to normal? What is normal anyway? I can't even remember. Is this normal? Seriously? No. Was this ever normal? Please. I think this used to be normal. Then I figured out, just stop it. So much has changed. No wonder nothing feels normal. But here I am, still standing, a brand new edition of me. This is no time to go back to anything. It's time to go forward and discover the new person I am now. I'm all in. For some great tips on finding your new normal, visit yourlifeyourvoice.org. You look familiar.
Back now in our final segment of this episode of Forsyth County Connections. Thanks for staying with us through this. And it's not often that I get to interview the executive producer of the program, but we're going to do that now. He also, his main title, and he wears many hats, but seriously, he's the county manager, Dudley Watts. We're talking about county manager at Forsyth County. Thanks for taking a couple minutes to be with us.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Glad to be here.
At our home away from home, because we had been doing this at the government center, and you helped us set up things so we can come here to cable too. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Spring is a particularly busy time in county government. So my question is, what things, what items, what initiatives, what programs seem to be occupying your time in management and administration more right now?
So spring is always when local governments are putting together their annual budgets, which kick in July 1st. And so the elected bodies of the city and the county commissioners are going to be deliberating the budget. So at the staff level, we're getting that recommended budget ready for them to take action on. And so this time of year is really consumed with all the things that go into that. It's even a little more complicated because we're, as you've interviewed Aisha Carter, our ARPA administrator, the American Recovery Plan funds are there, and so we're busy with that. And then there's some behavioral health dollars that we're trying to get administered and in the right places. And so we are absolutely consumed with budgeting in a lot of different processes. Right?
Now, you talk about the budget. What major drivers are emerging, the things that are going to be front and center, and what do you think?
Yeah, so my budget guy always says it's three things. It's people, and it's debt and schools. And so, again, it's people, debt, and schools. I would suggest this year, because there's inflationary pressures that we've really not felt in the last couple of years.
Right.
We've got some inflationary pressures kind of across the organization that we're dealing with. But you know, the economy's in a full employment. For whatever reason, the labor force has tightened up in a way that I've not seen it in my 28 years in putting together county budgets.
Right.
And so, you know, we've got really pressures around the compensation levels and all that I've just not seen. But, you know, I talk to my friends who are in the private sector, and they're dealing with the same thing right now.
Absolutely. Now, early in the show, in fact, we led off talking with Darla about the Humane Society and the partnership with the county, which leads me to this. Are there other partnerships that folks might be interested in knowing about that where the county partners with a different agency or an organization that you might want to tell us about?
Sure. In fact, I can see us having a lot of those partners on in future episodes as we've been planning the you know, this series. And so you know, and the ARPA funding has actually brought a lot of new partners into the fold. But you know, they are. Arts Council is clearly a partner with us. I think we need to be doing a session on some Arts Council summer series that the county commissioners have sponsored. You know, the behavioral health providers, companies and nonprofits like Daymark, with like ARCA and TROSA, which are service providers in that. You know, we have many of those partnerships, and they are probably more important now than they ever have been, because that's going to be our service delivery mechanism for a lot of this grant money.
You mentioned the pandemic. You mentioned the inflation and things you're dealing with continuously, very quickly. We're trying to pull out of this pandemic thing. Are we pulling out okay?
You know, the case numbers continue to have declined and have really gotten, you know, below the 5% and seem to have stayed there. We are cautiously optimistic, but we also understand that when we thought we were blue-skied last fall, that was not the case. And so, you know, we're prepared. Public health is going to continue to do what they do around the observation and watching those numbers. And so they were there before COVID, they'll be there after COVID, and they're watching.
Dudley, thanks for spending a few minutes with us to update us on those things and for helping us with this entire series. And as we wrap up the show, might as well just mention we've had this sort of up on the screen the whole time. connectwith.forsythcountync.gov. Good place to go and learn more information about all the programs and services that are available to you, and I hope you will do that. Dudley, thanks again for everything.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll see you in the next edition of Forsyth County Connections.